Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel for another collab between myself and Miles. Today is the first of two videos, a two-parts review series. We're going to be reviewing the two Peter Cushing Dalek films from the 60s, which of course have recently received brand new restoration work.
Yeah,
we've got here between us the collector's edition and the steelbook.
It's kind of like how we've got new collector's editions. The
collection box sets. We're covered between us. Other bits and pieces as well. First Doctor, Tardis, Daleks, etc.
Yeah.
The coin.
Not bitter, not jealous.
The coin from the collector's edition as well.
Very nice.
We need to move. Thanks to go out, doesn't it?
Get out of it. His jacket is very bright and colourful.
Well, yes, I suppose it does, doesn't it? But yeah, so we're going to be reviewing the first movie today on this channel, my channel. Second movie on Miles's channel. So look out for that. And let's just get into it. I mean, obviously we've had these new restorations. I was lucky enough to go to the BFI to see the premiere around about a week ago at time recording. And you've watched the. You've watched on TV, haven't you? So
yes,
it's very fresh in both our minds. So I guess with this, I mean,
how do you want to start?
Yeah, well, I suppose actually let's talk maybe about how we discovered these films. Because for me, it's a weird one. Cause I think back in the day, I maybe recorded one of the Channel 4 or 5 showings, whatever, but never actually watched it, or maybe watched a bit of it, but never probably get into it.
That's so weird because that's how I first watched them as well.
Did you watch it all the way through that way?
I recorded a Channel 5 showing. Because they used to always be on there. I mean, they probably still are actually.
Yes.
So that's how it's weird that.
And then more recently, actually, so I got this second-hand copy of the Dalek collection for my birthdays a year or two back.
Nice.
And that's how I ended up watching the first film. And I just never got around to the second film, and then the BFI screening came up, and I thought, well, I might as well just wait until then to see it. But in terms of what I thought of that film, we'll save that for the next video.
So you hadn't seen the second one at all until?
Not at all. I'd seen bits of it, like clips of, I don't know, like the explosions, whatever, the set pieces.
Yeah, the big stuff, yeah.
But I'd seen this one once before, and then seeing it again at the BFI actually really, I really enjoyed it. I found sort of a newfound appreciation, I think, because the first time I saw it, I thought it was okay.
It's like a novelty, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's just like, it's
and like seeing it on TV screen as well is a very different experience. You might just check your phone or pause it, whatever. But the experience of seeing it on the big screen, with the music which is playing, the opening fanfare, and like da 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 da.
Honestly, that's the first thing I wrote in my notes. I was like, the titles.
Oh yes,
absolutely banging. Like, it's not Ron Grainer, but it's
a very different sort of vibe, isn't it?
It's swinging 60s, isn't it?
Yes,
it's like this is the time. It's great, so good.
I love that, and then just the whole vibe of the film. I felt I could really get on board with this time round, particularly. I think the thing that stuck out for me very, very much is the colourfulness and the vibrancy of this first film, particularly by contrast to the second film. With all the Daleks, with all that colour. I mean, these drone Daleks have 4 or 5 different colours going on at once. It's not just like your silver and blue of your drones from the TV series.
Which I think is a mistake of the second film to go back on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know they've got more ranks, but I think that the colourfulness of these guys just beats it for me.
Yeah, because in the second film, there's the silver and blue drones there. They just look, I guess, just more like the TV ones. Or
it fits with the tone of the second film, but it's just a shame to lose this.
It is, yeah. I mean, I love that about this, the colour and just the larger than lifeness. I think just the way as well, it felt very Doctor Who when I was watching it, and very sort of sci-fi in a way which the second film isn't. Well, obviously because it's doing a different thing. And I was saying to you before this, there's kind of a comforting way, I think, in which the film plays out with the beats and stuff. I mean, obviously, it's different, I guess, if like us, you're very familiar with the TV original and stuff. I've read the novelisation and stuff, so all those beats were very familiar to me to start with, and maybe if you were coming to this fresh, it might not be that way.
With slight tweaks, obviously, because this is...
With slight tweaks, of course.
It's like this is a merge of, well, in terms of the intro at least, an earthly child in about 5 minutes.
Yes.
And then,
but yeah, just stuff like... Like the way, like, you know, they end up in the TARDIS and then like pressing a button by mistake and going off to this planet, and then the whole way they sort of get stranded, or they think they're stranded there, so let's go and explore the city, and just the way all that unfolds, and like, oh, you know, like things like, you know, discovering the Daleks. There's things like Susan going back to the TARDIS, and there's this thing there, and you're like, oh, it's a monster, and no, it's a foul. But like, just the way they play with the tension stuff there, like it's not like groundbreaking stuff,
but it's just very logical.
It's very logical.
And very,
it's logical. It's nice.
It's so easy to watch.
It is.
Like,
it's a very nice watch. Easy watch.
It's not taxing at all. You could stick this on. It's a perfect like bank holiday, rainy day film.
Absolutely.
It's just everything there for you.
Yeah, it just felt. It felt very sort of.
It's got a beautiful tone to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it felt inherently Doctor Who to me in a way which I hadn't quite noticed before. Like, just it felt very foundational. You know, like.
Grassroots.
Exactly. Which I suppose
because it's from like literally 2 years after its inception.
Of course.
So it's not surprising, I suppose.
And that's interesting as well in the way that obviously it's like it's an alternative presentation of that story. Obviously, the TV original, which is nice. I mean, I don't know. Do you have any particular preference between them? I haven't really thought about this.
The TV story and this. Well, it's weird because the TV story, when I first watched it, I was bored rigid because it's 7 parts.
It's longer, isn't it?
It's so long. I've since gone back to watch it when I was older and did it sort of in parts. And when you do that, it's a really good serial. It's just a great action serial for the same kind of reasons why this is a good film. It's you know, the logical plot. It's Terry Nation's first kind of thing, so it's great. But if I had the choice, I think it's going to be the film. Because it's a lot more succinct. It's everything you want condensed. You do lose a little bit in there. Like, there's some lovely stuff in the serial with Barbara and her kind of characterization in there. Same with Ian as well. Ian gets a lot more to do in the serial. In here, those two characters do suffer a bit. And
I was going to say as well, I feel this about both films, particularly watching the other day. They're very much more concerned with plot than character. I mean, it's a product of the time, I suppose.
It's spectacle over
I guess, isn't it?
Like, but that seems cruel to say, but that's the point.
People say that about the show these days, perhaps. The character development isn't there or whatever. I mean, this literally doesn't it doesn't really do anything with them, but then that's not what it's not the intention, it's not what they're trying to do, so it doesn't like offend me or anything. It's just one of those things.
It's just something to think, to observe, really.
Exactly, it's a different style, it's trying to achieve different things, and I think it does achieve those, really.
Well, what about, I mean, just in terms of the cast, Peter Cushing, what do we think?
I mean, it's a weird one with him because he is sort of, I was kind of watching it and thinking, you know, he is a sort of inherently Doctor figure, like a sort of, what's the word, like he just is, like he is kind of that epitomisation, I suppose, of the Doctor, isn't he?
He's like the Doctor on paper.
The Doctor on paper. Yeah. But I suppose in the same way, perhaps, maybe a bit more from the second film, he kind of suffers because of that. Like, he doesn't kind of get more to do beyond that, I suppose. It's very much that thing again of it just being, almost like what you're saying about it being the Doctor on paper, or the characters on paper, the story on paper.
Which is why it probably worked best in the first film, because it's his first outing. When you get to the second one, it's like, where can we go?
And I guess it's got that edge to him as well because of the whole thing of, you know, pretending about the fluid link and everything, and there's that little facet to his character, I suppose, which perhaps isn't there in the second film. Cheeky,
isn't it? I think Wyatt Hartnell at that time was more kind of stern, and he did that for his own sort of selfish needs. Cushing is a bit more kind of like,
that's true.
I'm sorry, but and Ian literally brushes it off. He's like, oh well, let's go. And it's like in the serial, like it's really made a big thing of. But obviously here, that's not the course of the day. You know,
there's no kind of conflict there.
There's no need
kind
for
of,
it.
You know, they're all on this adventure together. I guess it sort of plays into that thing as well. Like when you were just saying there, that whole vibe of like, I suppose of like sci-fi, of like adventure stories, things like, you know, Around the World in 8 Days or whatever. Jules Verne, that's the thing.
Yeah, it's very
he's very much in that vein of like those kind of characters.
The kind of scatterbrain inventor. I like that. And I love how they for the first scene in particular, the way they play on the fact that he's got so many thoughts going on in his head that he just loses track of everything. And,
yes.
And he forgets Ian's name, which is a weird kind of parallel with Hartnell in real life. I wonder whether that had an influence on it.
Okay.
Whether the fact that Hartnell kept getting his name wrong in the serial, they were like, well, let's incorporate that into the film and make it part of the character. Because I think that it was so lovable. The fact that he's there sort of going, and he's like, oh yes, hello, nice to meet you, and he's like already said hello. It's great.
I love it. I mean, I love the way you remind me as well. I love the way both of them start really, and just it's that sort of, again, it feels like a very sort of fundamental Doctor Who thing of like, oh, we get the scene set in the Tardis. Like I know in this one we get a little bit before that as well, but we start off with that scene in the Tardis, and they're like playing around or whatever, and something goes wrong, or there's a little sort of inciting incident, I suppose, isn't it? Like of we've landed on this planet or whatever, or we've done this, pressed the wrong button, and it continues into the second film as well. And also, I don't know if you read the comic in the Doctor Who magazine issue last month, like the Mechanoids one. Have you seen that?
Yes, I did read that.
That's some of the sort of vibe, isn't it? With like the milkman and we've spilt some milk or whatever it is.
Yeah.
that whole vibe of sort of ending up on this adventure and just being like, just carried along.
And you just go with it, don't you?
You go with it, don't you?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
It's that spirit of adventure.
Because it is ultimately, that first bit, before they get to Skaro, it happens within about 5 minutes. And it's like, wow, that's gone... From a Ian knocking on the door, within literally 10 minutes, he's on an alien planet.
Yes.
And but you just go with it because you think, well, this quirky inventor's probably so excited to try his machine, he doesn't think about any of that.
It's very endearing, isn't it?
Like,
you don't really want any of that like character drama or conflict or anything. You just want it to be that, and it works for that, I think.
And I think Susan works really well in that regard too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think Susan works so well as a young girl in comparison to a teenager for Caroline Ford.
Yes, there's a bit more of a sort of distinction there, isn't there, in between characters.
Yeah,
and stuff,
it adds a bit of variation. You've got all the kind of age groups, and it kind of, the fact that Reverse Toby's so good for however old she was. I didn't check. Did she say at the BFI how old she was?
She might have done. But I can't remember.
But she's great. She's so fantastic, and her and Cushing have the best dynamic. Like
absolutely,
they are so great together. Yeah, I love it, and how cheeky she gets that cheekiness off him. It works so well. Yeah,
like you say, particularly those two across both films, I would say, and then the other characters do suffer a little bit, perhaps, or I mean, I think in this one, I guess the people who suffer the least are like Barbara in this film, and then Louise in the other film.
Who suffer you mean from?
Yeah, because because just from not having an awful lot to do. Because then at least with Ian in this one, he's kind of reimagined as like this slapstick character, isn't he? Like, unlucky. Just. And I enjoyed that in a way that perhaps I hadn't before. I mean, do you think it gets a bit?
I think the cynical part of me did get on my nerves a little bit. The bit with the door when he's trying to get into the city. I was like, okay, it's a funny gag, but don't do it for 10 minutes. Like, I mean, they do draw it out. But then you sit back and you go, well, this is the point though. It's like a theatrical experience. It's not about the plot in a lot of senses. I was going to say as well,
like, when we were watching at the BFI, and I assume the same thing probably happened for the other screens in a few weeks as well across the country. We did get swept up in that whole laughter, and I found myself laughing at bits of that perhaps I wouldn't have done if it was just like me. Yeah,
that's the great thing about those events.
Yeah, with like a TV, on the TV or whatever.
What got the biggest laugh in the film? Can you remember?
Oh, so aside from all that sort of stuff near the start, the bit in this first film where I think it's the Red Dalek is doing its countdown. Yeah. And it like lasts for 5 minutes or whatever, and it's just like in the background, 60, 59.
I know, and it's like, he's just randomly picking numbers out there.
And that was it, because like I said, these other scenes just unfold in front of us, and that's just in the background. And every time that Dalek piped up with like another number, that was the thing. And we'll have to see if that is the same or different for the other screens in a few weeks' time. But
got a big thing about countdowns, these movie Daleks, haven't they? It happens in both films. Do you think they'd learn a lesson after the first one?
And it's only Rels in the second film, isn't it? This one.
Yes, this one's
just like
there's some figure. They're like Scaro digits or something like that.
Because
it definitely ain't seconds. I can tell you that.
Well, yes, That's true, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. It's a shame that you do get the. I mean, as nice as it is for Ian to be a slapstick character,
sure,
you do lose that character. But again, that's not what these films are trying to do. They're not, you know. And the thing about Barbara as well, it's like, I mean, it sounds bad to say it, but it's the '60s, and you do get the feeling that she's just there.
It's of its time, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it's more of an eye candy kind of thing for her and whoever the character, I don't even know her name.
Louise.
Louise.
That's it. It's one that. Yeah.
Yeah. Because like, they just don't have anything to do. In fact, we'll go on to the second one later, obviously. But the second one, literally, she goes out of the plot because the Doctor goes, "Take her away and like bring her somewhere else."
This is the thing. In the quiz of Rassilon afterwards, there was a question about the second film, which is like, out of these 4 characters, who has the least lines? And it was her, and then like 3 other like male characters from like the Resistance group, whatever. Yeah. And she is the one who has the least lines out of all those characters. So it's like, ugh.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's ridiculous. It is,
isn't it?
It's a shame, but again.
But yeah.
You know, what can you do?
Really.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say, that a similar. What was I? There was a point I was going to make.
Well, I mean, maybe if I mention Ian for a bit, you'll remember. Yeah. But like, I think Roy Castle is great. I think I definitely like him more than I used to when I watched the film. I think as sort of probably the reason why I liked the second one more was because I was in that kind of moody teenager thing of it's just silly, it's stupid. But I think he does a great job being such an entertainer throughout the whole thing. Like he adds these little flourishes, you know, wherever he can, and it's just. There is moments when, like I say, it does go a bit too far.
Sure.
And one moment in particular, which I was like, okay, that is really stupid, was when in the serial, obviously the Daleks corner the Doctor. And you got that amazing shot, you know, when it's them, you know, he's holding Susan and everything. And then in the serial, Ian makes a run for it down a corridor to get away, and they disable him. His legs. Yes. In the film, the Daleks have cornered them from all angles, basically. So. They start walking off, and Ian just turns a 180, runs straight into a Dalek and gets shot. And it's like, I think Gordon Fleming should have just reconsidered that bit of staging, because that is a bit too. Even Ian won't be that thick to do that.
There are 2 things now. One of them is what I've remembered now. But yeah, one about the Daleks, one about the Thals, I guess.
Well, yeah, I want to talk about them.
Yeah, the Thals. I mean, just in terms of thinking about like thinking about beyond just the surface level or the politics, whatever. It's part of the original story, but it did nevertheless come off as a bit weird. The whole thing of fighting for what you believe, like.
Yeah, I didn't quite get that moral.
It kind of works, but at the same time, it was weird. I think to see, because we're so used. Well, I guess some people might say, like the 13th Doctor's morals are a bit up in the air these days, but like generally speaking, you know, there's this whole policy of like no guns and stuff and all this sort of stuff, and it just felt a bit weird seeing that. I mean, it's not like promoting violence or anything per se, but it is a bit of a weird one in terms of like Doctor Who's just there going, oh, fight back. And I guess it's that sort of thing of like pacifism and where you draw the line and everything, and fighting for what you believe for, protecting people. It's all that sort of stuff, which is and it's not black and white. Sorry, but
it's just hard to gauge what message it's trying to put.
It is, yeah, and it's a bit. I guess it's one of those things which perhaps doesn't age well.
It's almost like it's that '60s the '60s message would have been "Don't be a wuss." Like that's kind of the thing I get from it, which is a bit like, dear. Yeah. So it's sort of, I don't know what it's trying to put across.
Because again with that, I had another point which I'll come back to in a minute, or I might end up at that point along the way. But one thing about both films, you know, as an extension from that, if you think about how the Daleks are defeated, I mean, I guess in both cases it's just like, we're going to blow them up, which again is sort of, you know, by today's standards, perhaps not the most imaginative sort of thing. I mean, it's one of those things again where it's of its time. You can understand why it's that way, and for a film you want to have like big spectacle and explosions and stuff. But yeah, I guess like by today's standards of Doctor Who and stuff, it's a bit of a weird one to say, we're just gonna we're not gonna find another way, because like these days the Doctor would perhaps try and find another way, or like use the Daleks' own weapons against them in a sort of in a different way, which just isn't just like involving blowing them up or whatever. It's like,
exactly,
we're gonna, I don't know, we're gonna like ruin their eyes, whatever. We're gonna impair their vision, which they do a little bit, but stuff like that. I don't know. What have any thoughts on that?
I agree. I think that it's but then I always just come back to it, and I know it's not an excuse, but it's like the idea of this film is just spectacle, and if it's a way out, they'll just and I think the main reason that it was, especially in this film where it was a blow up thing, is just they're gonna have that great shot of Roy Castle jumping out of the way and the Daleks blowing up this machine. So I think it's almost worth it for how good that last bit is. Like, I was sitting up in my chair like, this is great, this is so good. The way they coordinate that final sequence, I think it's the direction by Gordon Fleming is fantastic in this first film in particular, because the scale of it, that final fight, as I've said, is fantastic, and then the camera in the Dalek city is just constantly in motion. It's constantly gliding with them. There's that beautiful shot where it follows a Dalek into the control room, and they used it in the trailer, and it sort of pushes in, and the camera throughout that scene, it's just that one shot. It just keeps gliding and capturing every Dalek that it needs to. It's very cleverly done, very well staged, I think. Again, kind of going with the whole theatrical thing, it's like a theatre production that it's all just staged.
Absolutely,
and shot.
yes. I mean, I was going to say as well, on a similar sort of point there, you get the feeling, well, particularly if you read the recent Doctor Who magazine article about the sets in this film, you do get a feeling that, that they were, like, they've made a lot of point, particularly in recent interviews and stuff, saying, yes, it was a film, but by, like, relatively speaking, it wasn't a big budget film. It's quite a small budget film. Particularly this first one. So you do get a feeling that they are being quite creative there in the way that they use the sets and stuff. They've not got as many sets, I suppose, in this film as... I'm pretty sure there are more sets in the second film.
Or at least they use all of Pinewood for that second film.
All the backlot and stuff, isn't it? Because obviously this is all like set inside in studio.
And yet there's still a great sense of scale. Like the control room, that massive, weird cyclotron thingy that that moves.
Sure. Yes.
It's like, and then the matte paintings when they're going up the cliff.
The cliff. Yeah.
It's weird how, for what is ultimately, I think, probably, like, you're right, just a set for the Dalek City and a forest.
Absolutely.
They make they the scale of it is incredible. Like they do a great job of getting that across.
You don't get the sense that it's just like the same corridor being used again or redressed, whatever. I mean, it probably was like, I think it was like 2 or 3 corridors, but I think it's a testament to the set design and the production that you can't quite work out the geography or see how it was done. It's very convincing.
One thing about this, I mean, the sets are great for the whole thing. There's one set, and I think what I'm going to say, that is absolute dog shit.
A Dalek one, is it?
No, it's not a Dalek one.
Oh, the Tardis.
The TARDIS, I think the exterior looks beautiful. It looks fantastic. It's basically that box. It's white windows, lovely stuff. Although I do find it weird how you can see through the windows. And it's like, obviously, But again, fine, doesn't matter. But you get the big reveal into it, and it's just shite. It's just crap. It's like a load of wires.
Wires, isn't it?
And even when, like, the Doctor uses, like, the scanner, just a couple of LEDs come on and start whirling around. He's like, there's a problem with the fault locator. How do you know? There's no readings there. It's such a shame, because I think that if they were going to take anything else from the TV series, it would have been lovely to have a console room like
an
that.
upgrade of the
maybe bigger, like a bigger column but just the hexagonal thing. I think that would have looked so nice. I can't see why they did what they did.
It is a bit bewildering, isn't it? I mean, I suppose, to play devil's advocate, there is, like, going back to what we were saying about him being like an inventor character, I sort of like the idea behind it. Like, he's just
it does look like a laboratory.
Sure, like he's just sort of made it himself. But I guess at the same time it does look. I guess it's meant to look a bit unfinished because, like, he's still tinkering with it. But it's just.
But in the second film, it doesn't look any better. It's got another control.
I guess as well, they were only using it for like 2 scenes, so they didn't want to do anything too elaborate.
Budget wise.
But even so, you can't help but wonder.
It's just because you really want
what could have been
the spectacle, because it zooms out from Roy Castle and it's like it should be like, wow, what's this? It's just like, what's that? So it's a nitpick though. Really, I can cope with it. I don't mind. And I think the red lever is quite a nice little thing. I like how that's always like an inciting incident, just falling on it and using it all the time.
Yeah.
So aside from that, it's a tiny little thing, but
sure.
But yeah, I mean, should we just finish roughly
I think so,
by talking about the Daleks themselves? Because I feel like we've kind of touched on them, but in general, what do we think of them? Because obviously they are the big draw for this film.
Yeah.
Do you think they're in it enough?
I guess so. I think that there's quite a lot of anticipation. Like, when I was watching it the other day, I'd sort of forgotten how long they leave it before they reveal the Daleks. Yeah. It's quite a significant. I'm not sure how long it is really, but obviously you don't have that pull-out shot where there's loads of them there. I would say so. I think that they were more convincing in this, I think, than the second film, like you say, because they're more colourful and they're more interesting to look at.
Yeah.
There are one or two moments, like there was one bit in particular I remember where it's like a wide shot and I think one of the Daleks are like escorting in or someone, and they come out of the door and then have this weird thing where they like sort of reverse like a dodgem and sort of it's a bit of a weird movement.
I mean,
do you like that?
I can't even remember that though, because I definitely think that the operators in this film do so much better than in the second one. I think they look a lot shoddier in the second film.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
In this one, it really seems like they glide so elegantly through the. I mean, obviously the floors are specifically designed for that, of course, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
But like the colours of the black Dalek.
Yes.
And the claws. The claws are a great addition. I love that shot when they take the fluid link from the Doctor and it's clearly just like a stagehand with like a little claw and a stick. It's a shame that we didn't get a recreation of, because we don't see Barbara get captured. It's a shame we don't get the
that shot,
the iconic shot.
One.
Because we do have the shot of let's say pulling out, that's recreated here. So it's a shame that they didn't also recreate that. But I think everything about them, the voices are fantastic. The echoey, not credited for some reason. Don't know why.
This rings a bell from the quiz as well. I think maybe they credit one person in the second film, but not the others.
Peter, I wrote his name. Peter Hawkins and David Graham. Because it's given us such a huge part of the film. You think they'd be top billing, well not top billing, but you know what I mean. They think they'd be like high up. So maybe in the 60s they just didn't credit voice actors.
All the Thals get credit. There's a list of every single Thals.
Even like in the second film, I was watching the credits. I was like, they got to be in here somewhere. And Man with Carrier Bag is credited, and they're not. The Dalek voices aren't even mentioned. In fact, in the second film, only one of the Dalek operators is mentioned.
I remember this.
Which is just so weird. And a little thing about the voices as well. I don't know if you noticed this in the first film. They, especially for the first few scenes, they are so slow. They speak so slowly, and I realised through watching the documentary, because Nick Briggs points it out, because in the first film, a lot of the times the Daleks' lights are just flashing constantly, even when they're not speaking.
It's not sync, is it?
And for some reason, for the first stuff they shot, they just had them flashing, so the Dalek, when they dubbed over, they had to speak in time with the flashing lights.
Right.
So that's why in some shots they speak really slowly.
To try and sync it up a little bit.
And then they cut to the next shot when they realise, we've got to flick the lights, and then they speak in a normal Dalek way.
Sure.
But that's a minor thing again, because the voices and everything, the design, the imposing nature of them with the bigger bases, it just...
Absolutely, yeah.
It all comes
I was going
together.
to say as well, with the bigger bases thing, I think in stuff like TV, Dalek Invasion of Earth, like the original version, they're nice enough, but it's not quite it's not a definitive look for the Daleks for me with the bumpers on. Whereas I think with these, with something like the Dalek Supreme as well, I guess it's the ones where you've got the bumper but not the other base as well. It's just like one base. I mean, they look so good.
It works.
It works, doesn't it? Yeah, they look so great.
It works so nicely. A great draw for the film.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Daleks in colour for the first time.
I know. You forget that, don't you? You forget this is the first colour Doctor Who thing ever, because I think we're so used to it now. We don't even think how amazing this would have been.
It must have been, yeah. So
and the restoration really gets that across as well. The
colours and the sharpness and everything. It's great. So that's the first film. Go out and buy it because it is on sale now, in steelbook form and collector's edition form with loads of bits of tat and stuff, like booklets, coins, posters, postcards.
But it looks, it's great. It looks so nice.
It's so nice. Yeah.
I almost prefer that artwork to the steelbook.
Okay, yeah.
I'm glad they've kind of kept the pop art thing.
I'm kind of tempted. If that goes down in price, I might get it as well.
They are very nice. Although my only little like fanish thing is, the Doctor Who ones have been like this matte texture.
Oh, okay,
whereas this is because it's made by Studio Canal. I think it's a sort of a shiny.
Because I held some ones on the day of the BFI. Actually, someone Macaulay, shout out, had the steelbook and let me have a look at it, and I quite liked that actually. But I know what you mean. It's not consistent as it with the other ones.
Yeah,
it's different.
So yeah, and like also the slip, the little slip thing as well. It's just like a paper.
That's not good.
Thing. Yeah, so I'm considering whether to keep it or bin it. I don't know.
Well, if you bin it, I'll have it. I'll have it.
Yeah, deal.
But yeah, that was the first film. Go out and buy it if you want it. And then the second film we'll be discussing at some point soon as well, and that's out on collector's edition, steelbook and stuff in about a month's time, I think.
Ish, yeah. Less than a month now, I think.
Probably,
a week after they're out in the cinema.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and of course, the cinema screenings as well, they are happening. They have not been very well advertised. So, make sure you check those out. Is it just the one day? I think some places are maybe doing them for like 2 days or 3 or whatever. But most of them are on the 10th of July. Right. Then, maybe a couple of other ones as well.
See them if you can.
Absolutely, yeah. Check them out. But otherwise, thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned to Miles' channel for the next review. And, goodbye for now.
Goodbye.